Okay, good morning everybody, and Hazak Baruch, thank you for joining us on this beautiful Friday morning, Shabbat Beresheet, as we begin the new book, the new Torah all over again from the beginning. Rabotai, just sad to hear and sorry to share sad news this morning. Last night, the former principal of Yeshiva Flatbush, where I went to high school, Rabbi Eliach, passed away. A great man. The funeral is going to be today, and that is why we are doing this class a little bit earlier today than usual. But I remember one story about Rabbi Eliach that I'd like to share with you, and it actually connects to something very important from our Perashah. Our Perashah is Perashat Beresheet, and the book begins Beresheet bara Elohim. These are the first three words of our Perashah. Beresheet bara Elohim et hashamayim v'taaretz. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And if you take those three words, Beresheet bara Elohim, and you write them out, you'll find the last letter of each word. Beresheet is a taf, bara is an aleph, Elohim is a mem. Taf, aleph, mem spells the word emet. And right in the beginning, Rosh Devarecha Emet, right in the beginning of Hashem's book, many times a poet would try to hint his name in the poem somehow, somewhere. In the beginning, he'll throw in, the initials of his name or something like that. Hashem, right in the beginning, alludes to his name. And Hashem's name, Hashem's stamp, Hotamo, is Emet. And therefore, God, right in the beginning, right off the bat, makes sure to let us know how important honesty is. Beginning his book, beginning the Torah, reminding us, Beresheet bara Elohim. Truth is implicit right from the start of the Torah. But it's even more than that. Rabbeinu Bahye writes that if you take a look in the opening pasuk, you'll find every vowel, every nekuda. Patach, kamatz, tzere, segol, chola, everything. Bereshit. Look at the vowels. Bereshit. Bara. E, o, i. A, o, e. Right? E. Right? All the vowels. There's one vowel that's missing. I'll give you a few seconds if you want to try to take a guess and find out. Let me know which vowel is not written in the beginning of the Torah. Anyone want to take a guess? Which vowel is missing? Says Rabbeinu Bahye, you will not find the shuruk, the U sound. There's no U sound. And that's not a mistake. Every other sound is present, has a presence in the beginning, in the first pasuk, except for the U sound. Because the sound of U, which is shuruk is as well the same letters as sheker. And Hashem wanted to stay away from sheker as much as possible. Stay away. Don't even put the vowel that has the same letters as sheker, as falsehood. Stay away from the shuruk. The aleph bet is the foundation of our Torah. And if you write out the aleph bet, all the way from beginning to end, you'll find something very interesting. The first letter is aleph. The last letter is tav. And right in the middle is the letter mem. Now you may say, Rabbi, it's not a mem, because there's 22 letters, so there's two middle letters. It's a chaf and a lamed, not even a mem. It's true, but if you add the 5 sofet tevot, the 5 last letters, right? The 5 letters of mem sofit, nun sofit, tzadi sofit, pe sofit, and chaf sofit, and you add each one in its right place, there'll be 27. You'll have 13 on each side, and the dead center middle letter is a mem. So mem is the middle. So you have aleph, mem, and tav. Emet. Again, in the letters themselves, we find the necessity of truth from beginning all the way till the end. So creation begins with Beresheet bara Elohim. It begins with emet. It even ends with emet. It ends with the letters emet. The last letters of creation We're going to say it tonight in Kiddush. Vaychulu hashamayim ve'aretz v'chol tzeva'am. Right? God finished the creation of the heavens and the earth. Vaychal v'yom hashevi'i. God finished on the seventh day. And then it ends with the words, Asher bara Elokim la'asot. That Hashem created to do. And if you take those three words, bara, again, the last letter is Aleph. Elokim, Mem. La'asot, Taf. Again, Aleph, Mem, Taf. So creation begins with honesty, it ends with honesty. The world runs on honesty. Our rabbis tell us that any judge that judges honestly, with truth, is a partner, is a shutaf to HaKadosh Baruch Hu in creation. There's no sheker in the vowels of the Torah. There's no shuruk, by the way. The vowels of our ancestors, Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, our patriarchs and matriarchs. You have every vowel, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, Leah, again, but there's no oo. There's no oo sound. How interesting. There's no shuruk. Right? There's no shuruk by our ancestors. There's no sheker in our founding forefathers and foremothers. There's no sheker. And therefore, the intro to the Torah, the creation of the worlds, the foundation of the Jewish people, our letters, there's zero falsehood anywhere to be found. And therefore, Hashem, whose word, Hashem, Rosh Devarcha Emet, the essence of Hashem's word is this Torah. And He begins that Torah with honesty, with Emet. And it's our job to emulate God. You know, like you have many midot that are important to copy. Kindness and truth and fair and patient and forgiving. Many midot. But the one that's on the polar opposite of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is sheker, is falsehood. You cannot have a person that's half honest. You can't be half truthful. You can't be partially truthful. You can be partially kind. All midot, you can be semi-kind, semi-forgiving. But truthful, you're either truthful or you're not. And therefore the Torah says, Midvar sheker tirhak, stay far away from sheker. Because if Hashem is honest, then any drop of falsehood in our speech, any drop of falsehood in how we act in business, in how we conduct ourselves, any drop of theft, of lying, of cheating, it's the opposite of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And again, it's not easy to be truthful. But remember that in the beginning, Beresheet bara Elokim, the letters of Emet are backwards. It's Taf, then Aleph, then Mem. It's only at the end, only later is it in order. Bara Elokim la'asot. Our rabbis even tell us a little bit further that sheker en lo raglaim. Sheker doesn't have any legs. If you write the word sheker, the letters kuf and resh, they don't have legs. The kuf stands on one foot, can't stand. Resh stands on one foot, can't stand. Emet is solid. Emet has a foundation. Truth will last forever. You can't knock out truth. If it's the truth, it's the truth. Emet has eternity. Emet will endure. Sheker will not. But you know what? I was always bothered by this Dvar Torah because sheker begins with the letter shin. And shin does have legs. Look how the letter shin is. The letter shin has a bottom. Shin could stand. Okay? The way at least the Sfaradim write it. I don't even know, right? I think everyone writes it like this, but let me write it for you. The letter shin right? It has a bottom. So shin stands. And the answer is that even sheker always needs a little bit of truth in the beginning. Without truth, it cannot stand at all. But even the sheker, the reason it has a temporary base is because it has a little bit of truth in it. Remember when the spies came back and they wanted to speak negatively about the land of Israel, and they spoke Lashon Hara and they started speaking gossip? It was all lies. But even the spies knew that if they're going to only say lies, if they're only going to speak sheker, if they're only going to speak falsehood, there's no way it's going to stand at all. So they had to give a little bit of validity to their speech. So they began with truth. And they say to Moshe, the land was very good. The land was beautiful. The land, great things. They began with a strong foundation of truth, a shin, repeating the facts about Israel that were truthful, and that was able to give. So we have to be very careful. A lot of times, people around us that try to deceive us, they'll tell you something that's a fact. They'll tell us something that's a bit truthful. It has some truth to it. But then very quickly it escalates and it's filled with a kuf and a resh, things that are complete lies. And we have to be able to separate between the two and to know just because partially what they said was truthful doesn't mean that everything that they're saying is the truth. We have to be able to discern and to differentiate between that. Sheker begins with truth, but eventually it will fall. Eventually it will fall. I want to tell you a story that Rabbi Eliach told me. Rabbi Eliach, a great man, a person that I was zocheh. I learned from him. He was a master in education. I learned a lot of my skills in education and teaching from him when I became a teacher in Flatbush. I used to spend many hours every week sitting with him in the library, going through lesson planning, going through different ways of how to reach the children who, it's very difficult to talk to kids today to try to, teach them what you're trying to give over the lessons. They have so many different things going on in their lives. He always emphasized the importance of motivation. Always begin your class with motivation. I remember when I started as a teacher in Flatbush, I thought I was amazing. I was a little bit arrogant. I thought I was very good. So I would come in and they said, you're becoming a teacher now and you have a lot to learn. And in my head, I'm like, all right, yeah, I have a lot to learn. Dude, I'm Syrian. I don't, we're born good. But they said, no, you got to sit with him once a week, sit down twice a week. You have to do your lesson planning. I said, all right, and I would give over my first lesson. And then I would go to him and I would sit down with him and I would be like, all right, let me see what this guy has to teach me. What do you know? I'm younger, I'm more with it. And every single time I was, stunned at how he had such a clear way of whatever the material was. And he didn't know what I was teaching. He would say, okay, tell me what you're learning with them. And I would say, okay, this is what we're doing. He would say, okay, how'd you start the lesson? And I said, this is how I would start it. And he said, okay, and how do you think they reacted? Or let me take a guess, I'll tell you how they reacted. And he was 100% right. Every single time. Master in education, he understood that there's a way, there's an order. You can't just go into a classroom, just because you went to Kollel for 5-10 years, just because you know a lot of Gemara. There's a skill in how to teach. There's a skill. And again, this is just one tiny area of Rabbi Eliach's life. There's much more that I wasn't zocheh really to be a part of. When I was a student in Flatbush myself, he wasn't my teacher. He wasn't my principal. He already, retired at that point. But I was able to at least learn a little bit from him when I came back as a teacher. And he had a brilliant way of being able to just organize and to visualize the Gemara and the page and to take something that's very complicated and to simplify it using graphs, using diagrams, using motivation. Always begin with an aim. Something that I think every single yeshiva, every single educational system needs to remember that just because someone knows how to learn, it doesn't mean that they know how to teach. There's a big difference. You could be the greatest genius in Gemara. You can know how to learn and how to use your finger and break up a whole sugya in Gemara, but to teach is a completely different art. And I have a tremendous amount of hakarat hatov to Rabbi Eliach, alav shalom. May his memory be a zechut for all of us. Tremendous gratitude to him for teaching me a little bit. Again, there's a lot more that I need to learn, and I wish I was able to take advantage of that. But always beginning the class with a motivation, with an aim, with a question, taking this abstract concept, making it concrete, making it real, bringing it down to the lives of the students. And I remember one time, there was a student in my class that I caught cheating, and I was a little bit torn on how to handle the situation. You know, on the one hand, I wanted to become this kid's friend. I wanted him to like me, to respect me. Because if they don't respect you, if the kids don't respect you, nothing that you ever tell them will go in. And I was a little bit unsure of how to handle the situation. On the one hand, he did cheat, and I needed to, report him, or at least to take certain action. On the other hand, I knew that if I did that, the kid would lose all respect for me. And I remember asking Rabbi Eliach what he thought. And Rabbi Eliach told me an unbelievable story. Rabbi, you got to hear this. He told me many, many years ago, when he was a teacher himself, before he was the principal, when he was a teacher in Flatbush, there was a certain boy, he didn't tell me his name, of course, for obvious reasons, but there was a certain student that was cheating too often on tests, on exams, on whatever it was. He caught him once, he caught him twice. Finally, he took away his paper, and he sent him to the principal's office. And he said, this kid is cheating right and left. And the principal at the time told Rabbi Eliach, listen, this kid, his father has a lot of money. His father is the president of the synagogue. He's very high on the board. Just give him a 0 and let him retake the test. And Rabbi Eliach objected. He said, listen, this is not the first time. This is not the second time. I strongly think that we need to do something. We have to take action because this kid has a pattern already. And Rabbi Eliach and the principal again told Rabbi Eliach, who was only a teacher at the time, he said, whatever, there's nothing that we could do about it. The family's too powerful, whatever, let it go. Just make him take a retest. Okay, I'm not the principal, I'm just a teacher, I just work here, I'll do whatever you want. And Rabbi Eliach is telling me the story. Rabbi Eliach said, I gave the kid a retake. He ended up passing all of his tests throughout every possible topic, right? Every teacher, every grade. The kid graduated valedictorian. Okay? The kid graduated valedictorian. Top of the class. Okay? Probably not undeserved. Because Rabbi Eliach said if he was cheating in my class, he was probably cheating in other classes as well. But he graduated valedictorian. Okay, every subject, high 90s, high 90s, high 90s. He ended up getting into one of the best Ivy League colleges in the country. He ended up graduating top of the class. He ended up becoming one of the top judges in a very chashuv court system. I don't know which one. He became a very, very significant judge. And Rabbi Eliach says, many, 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 many years later, I was the principal of Flatbush, and I came into the library. I was sitting up in the library reading the New York Times, and I opened the front page of the New York Times, and I found right there on the front cover was a picture of this student. And I saw this picture. I said, I know that kid. That's the kid. That was my student. That's the one that became the judge. And he says he read the article, and the article said how this judge was looking at a life sentence for doing illegal actions as a judge. And Rabbi Eliach says, when I read the article, I started crying. I started crying because I knew that it's my fault. It's all my fault. That's what he said. It's my fault that he did illegal things. It's my fault that he grew up to be a cheater. It's the school's fault because we didn't take action in the beginning. We let him get away with it. We thought we were doing him a favor. And he ended up taking all of those negative behaviors of cheating throughout life with him. And therefore, sheker sometimes, in the beginning, it looks like it's strong. Oh, graduating, valedictorian, became a big judge, It has a strong base, a strong foundation, a strong sheen. But we have to remember that sheker has no legs. Ultimately, truth prevails. And that was a very big lesson for me at the time. I ended up applying this lesson. I'll tell you just a quick story about myself. The next time, this was like right in the beginning, my first week. A few days later, I was giving a test to a different class, and again, I caught a kid cheating. Again, I was very torn because I knew that if I'm going to call him out and I'm going to lose this kid, and this kid happened to be, by the way, the most popular kid in the class. This kid was the most popular kid, and if I call him out and he doesn't like me, then he's going to badmouth me to all the other kids, and basically my entire year is in the garbage. And I could do whatever I want, and I could try to talk to them about Hashem and Torah and mitzvot and emunah, and it's going to be all for nothing, because that was my philosophy, at least. Day one, walk in, locate the coolest 4 or 5 kids, make them yours, you get them to like you, and then they become your soldiers, and then they get all the other troops, all the other kids to like you also. And then once you have a good relationship with the kids, then you can inspire them. You respect them, they respect you. If they don't respect you, nothing that you ever teach them will ever penetrate. And it was a shame, because this kid who I caught cheating was like the top kid, like the most popular kid in the class. And I knew that if I call him out, I'm going to lose that relationship. But I remembered the story of Rabbi Eliach, and I said, I have to think long term. I got to think about this kid's future. If I don't teach him, if we don't teach him as an institution, then he's gonna get away with being, who knows. Anyways, I called him out for it. In the beginning, he tried denying it. What are you talking about? I'm like, I stared him down. He knew I knew. He came up, I took his paper, I ripped it up. And, okay, in my head I said, okay, that's it, I lost this kid, see you later. Try next year, Ariel, And let me tell you something. This kid ended up becoming my top student. Not only didn't he resent me, he ended up respecting me more for what I did. He ended up becoming my top student. He ended up organizing all of the classes that we were giving every single night in the synagogue. He brought all the other kids to start coming to learn. He started his family. He grew up not keeping kosher. A few months later, he came over to me. He's like, Rabbi, I want to know, am I allowed to eat at this and this restaurant if it's vegan and it's not kosher? And I couldn't believe the question, because I'm like, wait, but you don't keep kosher. He's like, I know, but I want to start. I'm like, what? You start keeping kosher? Why? What happened? Basically, everything that I ever said throughout the year, this kid was eating it. He was taking it in because he respected what I had to say, because he knew that I had integrity. He said, till now, people saw me cheating, they let me get away with it. But you put your foot down. There's an interesting story, by the way, with Rabbi Grossman, not for now. But if you have the book, I urge you to read it. It's called Rabbi Grossman and the Goslin, I think. Okay? That's the title of the story. Similar story. But again, people will respect you when they see that you have integrity. In the beginning, it's going to be hard. In the beginning, it's going to be backwards. In the beginning, it's going to be Beresheet bara Elokim, Taf, Aleph, Mem. It's not going to look like it's in order. It's going to look like, there's chaos, and I'm losing all my students and the respect that he has for me, and it's all going to go down the drain. In the beginning, Emet is not going to look good. But remember, Emet always endures. Truth lasts forever. It's truth with our spouse, truth with our relationships, truth in our business. When people see that we're honest in business, they'll respect us. We have to be always emet. A lot of times it's easy to cut corners. You make a quick, 100 grand, whatever it is, but sheker doesn't last. There's no shuruk in the beginning pasuk. There's no shuruk in the vowels of our ancestors, Abraham, Yitzchak, none of them. They don't have any shuruk in their name. There's no sheker. If you want something to last, you can't begin with sheker. I had a student, he reached out to me. He wanted to, he had a marriage license that he needed me to sign. He didn't know that it expires. Anyways, the marriage license was going to expire, and his wedding's not for another month, and it's going to expire now. So he wanted me to sign retroactively that I wed him 2 days ago. Again, who's going to know? You just sign, you put 2 days ago date, no pain, no harm, no foul, right? And it was very hard for me because I don't want to go into the details of the story because I don't want to give away any details that would indicate who this person is. But it was very important for him to get married 2 days ago for whatever reason it was. He needed to have it done retroactively. And I remember calling first my posek, my rabbi. Halachically, is there an issue? What about legally? And I ended up calling a lawyer. And the lawyer told me, I'm not sure if I shared with you the story before, but the lawyer told me, he just warned me about the dangers of such a thing. He's like, listen, Rabbi, I know that you know this kid and you like him and he likes you and there's not going to be, but let me just give you a far-fetched scenario. Just imagine one day this couple gets divorced. So now there's hatred, there's anger, there's bitterness. They're fighting with each other. And by the way, they could go back and prove that they were never even married. They have to just prove through Easy Pass or through phones or pictures that you weren't there on that day, that they weren't there. They were never married. You know how many problems can be caused with their kids? Their kids are not even theirs, and alimony, and the home, and money, and splitting, and you could get into trouble. Oh, but he was going on and on and on. I'm like, oh my God, good thing I called a lawyer, right? Again, something that I didn't think of. And then he said, and do you want to begin this marriage on sheker? You want to begin on sheker? You want to start off on the wrong foot? On lies in this marriage? That's how you want to start off. You want to start off with emet. You're right, it's a small lie. It's a tiny, irrelevant detail. Who's going to care if they got married on October 1st, September 28th? It's irrelevant. You don't want to start off on sheker. What kind of marriage how are you setting up your marriage to be if you're going to start off on falsehood? So that was, something that, so Baruch Hashem, we ended up not doing it. And the kid was able to find and schedule a new appointment. Miraculously, something opened up in City Hall to be able to go get a new marriage license they're going to expire, that he could sign it on the right day. Really, really big miracle because he said there's not a single appointment for another 3 months. And 1 half-hour slot, his wife kept refreshing the page and a half-hour slot opened up. Okay, this is a true story. So, Baruch Hashem, emet sometimes is hard in the beginning, but we have to know that emet is ultimately what prevails. Hashem's stamp is emet. And so we got to really reinforce ourselves. We got to strengthen ourselves. We got to give ourselves chizuk. Sometimes it looks like people that lie get away with it. It looks like sheker has feet. The shin is strong. Valedictorian became a high judge, became best in the class. But we have to remember that we have values. And our values tell us that sheker is something to stay away from. Emet is something that we should cling to. Midevar sheker techak. This is, again, one of many, many lessons that I learned from Rabbi Eliach. Tehi nishmato tzerura b'tzorah chayim. He should be a militz yosher. The family should find comfort. Again, they didn't even have the funeral yet. So that's why the class today was a bit early. We'll be going there right now. But we should be zochet to apply all of these values and many, many more from our beautiful, beautiful Torah. We'll stop over here. Wishing everyone a Shabbat Shalom. We'll see you all next week. Bye-bye.